Hi everybody, this is Emily from Grammy's Garden. Good morning. It's a cold Monday morning here. It's a good time to make what I'm going to be making, but I'm going to put this in the freezer because I just made it 2 weeks ago and I'm ready to just wait a little bit and savor this stuff. These are my green tomatoes. I have more. I just put 2 bags of this recipe into my freezer. This is going to be a green tomato mock apple crisp. I'm using green tomatoes in place of Granny Smith apples, which I normally use in my crisp recipe, and it works really well. The great thing about this is you can put this in your freezer and pull it out and put it in your lightly greased 9x9 or 8x8 pan and bake it at 300, I think it's 375, yeah, 375 degrees for about 35 minutes and just kind of check it. So here we go. Here's a recipe. I'm going to make this as short as I can for all of you. Not everybody that watches my channel I've seen is that interested in recipes, but some people like the whole thing, especially those of us who are, and those of you who are having these green tomatoes, and because of the cold coming and the cold that we've already had, is you need to get these off the vine and in the house, and some of mine have ripened. Some I'm going to ferment them and make like a pickled concoction that's going to be fermented though, so it's going to have good probiotics. But let's get to just the apple crisp. All right, so the first thing that goes into this is about 2 pounds of sliced green tomatoes. Now you can, if you want to use this, it is a great recipe. If you want to use this recipe and make it with your apples, your Granny Smith apples, you just go right ahead and do that, or whatever kind of tart apple that you have. The recipe calls for 3 tablespoons of melted butter, and because we're going to be putting this in the freezer, we're not going to melt the butter. And when you put it into your pan, you don't do anything but put the whole thing into the pan. So we have that. And I'm going to just kind of take off some little chunks of this and spread it so it can spread throughout. If you're making this fresh from green tomatoes and you're going to put it right into a pan, then go ahead and melt your butter ahead of time. But if not, don't worry about putting this in the freezer with your butter not being melted. It will distribute throughout the whole thing. It won't be a problem. So that's 3 tablespoons of butter, and then a tablespoon of lemon juice. And you might think, wow, that's so tart already with those green tomatoes. Yes, but the lemon juice worked just great. Now, I'm just distributing everything. Everything's going to go across this whole concoction, all right? You can use your own lemons at home, and I just happen to have this lemon juice. I don't always have that on hand. The next thing is half a teaspoon of vanilla. I'm hoping to make some vanilla that I'll be able to show on video, make vanilla for some Christmas gifts, because I think that would be nice. I know I would love to get something like that. The next thing is a half a cup of brown sugar. Now, when I started to get this recipe together a little bit ago, I thought, oh no, I used the last of my brown sugar, because like I said, I made a couple of good-sized bags of this and put it in the freezer over the weekend, and I had used all my brown sugar. Do you see this? That's brown sugar. All brown sugar is your regular cane sugar you buy at the store, and it's mixed with, I put a good teaspoon and a half of molasses in the sugar, and I just stirred it with the fork. Some people will mix up a whole supply of it, and to have on hand, and I'm going to have more than I need, so I'll be able to use it. I might make cookies this afternoon, and if I do, then I'm going to go ahead and use this brown sugar. But this tastes, it's molasses and sugar, and it tastes just like the brown sugar you buy in the store. If you like a dark brown sugar, put a little bit more molasses. Okay? I pressed it down like you would with most recipes. And I'm distributing that, and then I'm going to take just a little bit more. I want it out of this thing there we go. Because I want to be able to use this brown sugar later on. Got some on my cutting board, that's going in there. I'm cautious with good stuff. A half a teaspoon of cinnamon. So y'all can tell by these ingredients, this is just like if you were making an apple pie. And you can make a really good apple pie with this too. And as many, like with 2 pounds, that's going to make you a good size apple pie or apple crisp. Okay, so that's half a teaspoon. And a pinch of salt and 2 tablespoons of flour. Flour will be your thickener. I already put my pinch of salt in here, and I'm using Himalayan pink sea salt. And I'm just going to distribute it. I put it down in my flour when I was getting ready for this. And that's it. That's it for the what would be your apple mixture that you would put in the bottom layer of your pan. So I'm going to mix it up real good. And I'm going to put it in a freezer bag. And I'll show you how I flatten that out. I'm mixing it really well because I want all of this coated with everything, because I want every little bit of these. I slice these really thin, and I want every bit of them to have a good cinnamony, buttery, brown sugar flavor to them. Now, when you look at this, I hope you can tell. This looks just like it would if you were making a Granny Smith apple crisp. I've seen lots of apple pie, mock apple pie using green tomatoes. I've seen quite a few of them from last year, from this year, online, but I hadn't seen any for apple crisp, and that's easier for me because I'm just really not good at dough making. I sometimes purchase mine, the kind that you just come in sheets and you just put them in the pan and fit them like you need to. They taste good to me. I do make my own sometimes when I'm trying to make a little bit of a nicer pie for me. For, you know, if I'm taking it to a dinner or carry-in, or if I'm having it here for my family. So that's that. So I've got my freezer bag. I'll show you. With my freezer bag, I've got green tomato crisp / pie, because it can be used for either one, and today's date. Because I keep things, I have a very small deep chest type deep freezer. Very small, like a 7 cubic feet. And I'm going to use my hands. I wash my hands really well, as I've said in my cooking videos. But anyway, I have to rotate stuff in there because I want to be sure that not everything, you know, things are sitting at the bottom and not getting utilized. So I'll put this underneath the ones I just did over the weekend, just 2 days ago. I think I did them on Saturday. So I'm going to be pouring the juice out that's come out of these tomatoes, and I just slice these. And I'm going to pour all this goodness right down in there. I went out and checked mine in the freezer. Sorry for blocking the view. I went out and checked mine in the freezer that day to make sure that they were good, you know, like frozen good, and everything. It just looks like, okay, you just pull it out of here, and just, it'll probably have to kind of be broken apart. I wouldn't really thaw it in any water unless you just want to thaw it in your fridge for a little bit, or maybe in some cold water. But you should be able to put it right straight in, because your frozen pies you buy at the store are frozen, right? You just put them right in your oven. So I don't have a food sealer. I'm just pushing all the air out, and then I just fold it up like kind of to burp it and zip it closed. And it's ready to go. And I put them flat because that gives me more room in my freezer to do that. Now what I want to do is I want to give you all the rest of this recipe, because when you get this out, you're going to add your crumble to the top. And I thought, okay, how can I do that in a way for people who want to just get it and get it done? Like when you're making this, they want to get the whole thing done. You could mix it all together and put it in the freezer with this. You could clip it together somehow. You could just lay it right on top of it, and you would have your crumble ready to go as well. But here's my recipe for the crumble. You might have your favorite one. If you don't, here's the recipe for that. It's 1/2 cup of flour, 1/2 cup of oats, and then you combine that well, stir it, and then you put in 1/2 cup of brown sugar, and don't add any more than that because you're not making up for the tartness of this. That sugar's already been added to this. 1/4 teaspoon of salt, I think I said, 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. You want the baking powder that's going to give that, some leavening to your flour mixture and your oat mixture. And then this says to put in 5 to 6 tablespoons of cold butter cut into the flour mixture. So that's something, if you put it in the freezer, you might want to have that all cut up first. And what I do to cut up butter to make it easy is I just have a slicer, like a grater that you can grate carrots or veggies, cheese, whatever on, and I just grate the butter. I put my butter in the freezer, a stick of butter, and then I just take it out and grate it. And then I mixed it in. And I use my hands a lot, and I wish I had a pastry cutter. I don't, but anyway, I just mix it with my hands. Usually I start out with a fork, and a strong fork, and I start getting it all blended. And then when I drop it on top of the crisp, the apple part, it's just kind of, little clumps and dollops here and there until you've got it fairly well covered, because it will expand over it. That's all you do. You just make it like that. And this is the part for the freezer. You bake it at 375 degrees for 30 to 35 minutes. And I start checking mine around 30, but my oven's kind of slow. So I went ahead and let mine cook for 40 minutes. If you know your ovens, great, because it's 30 to 35 minutes. But if you don't know your ovens, then you might want to go ahead and just check it every now and then, because mine's cantankerous. I have to really watch stuff when it's in there. It tends to go too slow. So that's it. I hope you all give this a try. If you've got green tomatoes that you don't know what to do with, fried green tomatoes are always great. And like I said, I'm going to ferment some tomatoes and put them in the refrigerator after they're done fermenting, and have some pickled tomatoes. I'm going to put some, good pickling kind of things in there, like garlic and dill and all that. So that's it, you all. I hope you try it, and I hope you have a really wonderful day. Thanks a lot. See you later. Bye.